So what is going on, everybody? My name is Mehul and welcome to your 12th Angular tutorial, in which we're going to take a look at what data binding in Angular is and how we can get it to work. So to start off with, again, we're going to go simple because AngularJS already had this data binding with these two curly braces, and you could evaluate like any expression 1 plus 1 or any sort of multiplication, division, call even JavaScript functions. So we can pretty much say like result in here, and we can say 1 plus 1 is equal to and result. And what we can do is in our component we can define result as 2 and hit save and make sure you have the app running, and you would get 1 plus 1 is equal to 2. Fair enough. So that is one way. And the other way, if you want to like bind this value to an attribute rather, instead of just showing it raw on the page, what you would do is pretty much say like input type text and value is this thing, right? So this is one way, right? Now the actual meaning of this thing is not that it just sets the value of this input type text to result, but it rather sets the property, the DOM property of input type text to result. Now what that means actually is that it is monitoring this property, and once the result is changed, since the property is linked with this result, and you have changed the result variable, then the property would also be changed, right? So the difference actually, if we take a look, if this is your element, right? Let's just say this is any sort of element. Let's just say this is input element. So when you write input, let's just make it 20. Yep. Input type text and value, some value here, right? This value is being set as the property of this input box for the first time. And later on, when the user just modifies it, this property right here, this DOM attribute remains still the same. But when you access it with JavaScript, like I don't know, my input.value, by getting this input reference, then what happens is that you are now accessing the property of this DOM object, right? So what Angular is doing right here is that it's not setting its value, it's not setting the attribute value to the result, but it's rather setting the property of this DOM object to result. And what we can do in order to see that it's working is that very much let's just go ahead and create a constructor, and right here let's just fire a set timeout, which pretty much says that result is equal to 50, right? And if we save this and change the set timeout to 2 seconds and save this, and you can see that after 2 seconds it changes from 2 to 50. Now again, if it were just echoing out the value, then it would just remain at 2 here, but it's actually binding to the property of the element, so it changes the value to 50 when the result changes, right? So this was an important thing to understand, to know how binding works in Angular. And another way to actually achieve the same thing is to make use of these square brackets. And again, looks like Sublime Text is not happy, but we're still going to go with it. So these square brackets and that interpolation syntax with these curly braces is pretty much same. There's a slight difference. I would just let you know about that by the end of the tutorial. But for now, the square brackets pretty much says again that because if you do something like this, then Angular has no idea if you actually want the value to be result, or you want to let Angular take control of this value. So the square bracket is again a syntactic sugar. It's just still Angular that we want you to be in control and just parse out what we have in right here. It's probably some JavaScript and just makes sense for it. So we save it and we see, you can see again we get 2 and 50, and again it's just binding to the property. Okay, so well, actually the difference between binding with the square brackets and binding with these curly braces is pretty much that these curly braces, what they do when you do something like this, they actually evaluate whatever inside it is and convert it to string, right? So that is one way to understand this. So if you have something like um, I don't know, an array, 1, 2, 3. So you know that for arrays, they just pretty much turn into something like this on conversion on strings. So it will just show you that. But with the square notation, what happens is that the result is just evaluated as it is, but is not converted to string, right? So that's pretty much the only difference between these notations. And I guess this one looks a bit cleaner than that curly brace notation. But again, it's up to you, whatever you prefer. Both are correct, right? So that was a real tutorial, quick tutorial on one-way data binding with Angular, and it's actually half the part of one-way data binding because we have not seen how we can one-way data bind from the view to the component script, right? So we'll just take a look at that in the next tutorial. So that is all for this one. And if you liked it, then don't forget to subscribe. And thank you for watching. I'll see you then in the next one.